days in, taking home their stringers of brim and bass and catfish, muscle-weary, smelling of fish slime and worms. The water of the lake was the color of dark tea in the late afternoon shadows, acid from trees. He closed his eyes, listened. The water lapped softly against the bank, rolled in, seeped back. The lapping sound was like a slow and lazy pulse beat, a dozing lake, not much different from an old man sleeping in sunshine, just enough breathing to keep alive. A good place, a good place. He wondered if it was the lake he had heard of. His sense told him it was. 100 yards or so up the east side of the lake, he had seen a small frame building that seemed empty from his distant view, though it was hard to tell since it had a screened-in porch, the screen hiding whatever was behind it. Probably a shack used by hunters, he had reasoned, remembering such shacks from his childhood. If somebody lived in it full-time, they did a good job of making it appear deserted. Whoever it was that owned the lake and the shack had a good place. He squatted at the lake's edge, placing the fishing rod he carried on the ground, and then he leaned forward and lightly touched the palm of his hand on the surface of the water. "Tell me," he said silently, set inside his mind. The water was cool. Against his palm it had a tickless feel of silk. Yes, a good place. He pushed his fingers into the water and wiggled them, paused, let his eyes scan the lake. 40 feet away, against the bank, the water roiled, quivered like a muscle. He smiled again, held his fingers in the water, watched the roiling ripple toward him in perfect circles. Soon the first ring touched him. He pulled his hand from the water and lifted it to his face and inhaled slowly, taking in the scents of the lake. Algae, the decay of trees pushed over by windstorms, and dropped into the water. Hickory, oak, beech nut, sweet gum, silt of leaves and wash-off of wood dirt, frog and snake and turtle, and fish, the sharp, almost metallic scent of fish. He rubbed his hand across the front of his shirt. A very good place. He stood and slipped the army knapsack he wore off his shoulder, then picked up the rod and pulled loose the line on the bait-casting reel, letting the lure dangle before him. It was an old lure, turned like a small minnow with silver flecks on its sides. He had caught many fish with it before snipping off the hook with a pair of wire cutters. It was now a lure for holding his line on the rod and for teasing. One cast, he thought. One cast to let Mr. Fish know he was there. Enough to anger Mr. Fish, to make him restless, make him coil and leap at anything moving near him. He tilted his rod to the water, dipped the lure, wetting it. Then he made his cast near the bank where the fish, a bass, a largemouth, he believed, had rolled. He watched the lure slap the water, dive, and disappear, and then he began his slow reeling in of the line. He could feel the lure drag through algae, and he flicked his wrist twice, giving the line a jerking motion. A cloud skimmed the July sun, dimmed it. He felt a puff of air against his face and stood motionless to let the air pause on his skin. A sense of peace settled over him, as though he had marked the place he stood on a map, and after a long journey had arrived at his destination. He wondered what day of the week it was and the date marking the day. Thought, what does it matter? For more than 2 years he had walked into days and weeks and months without knowing them by calendar, only by season. The season he read in trees, lime-green buds in spring, full leaf in summer, colors of hot embers in autumn, the dark limbs of winter. He had walked and fished, leaving behind war and the burial ground of his parents, and the sadness of his brother, and the open and the secret experiences of his boyhood, walked far enough to stop looking over his shoulder to see if his history tagged after him like a scolded yard dog. Now it was only memory, and memory had a way of rubbing down most of the rough edges. Still, he had always believed there would be a place to stop the walking, to stay, to become his own forest, show his own seasons. And there, with the air on his skin, he wondered if he had found that place. 3 weeks earlier, in Kentucky, he believed, he had come upon an old white